All right, hey traders, TG Watkins here. Hope everyone is doing well. Let's see if I can get all this stuff removed. It is December 21st when I'm recording this, and we've had a few down days going from the FOMC, and now we've kind of reached a point where basically things are kind of stretched to the downside, and we should be getting to bounce, which we are. So let me kind of walk through that. I'm not going to say that this is a Santa Claus rally, but it is just a bounce so far. So yeah, I don't want to be giving any precision talking about this is a Santa Claus rally or anything else like that because it's not a rally yet. It's just a bounce. So we're just gonna have to give it a little bit of time and see where we go from there. All right, come on, there we go. Computer's a little bit slow when I'm doing this. All right, so if we look from around here, and I was on the mic twice yesterday within Simpler Trading and with the Moxie subscribers and traders. And so what I was looking at was talking about a bounce. And what you guys can see is I had a couple of lines drawn here from the gap basically that we had. And I just figured, when price gets so oversold and we're going to turn around and bounce up like this, most likely it's going to go to the gap. Now, can it go through it? It could go through it, but I don't think it's really going to stay on the other side. I think it's going to pretty much go to it, and that'll be about it. And so far, it looks like that was the case. You can see that it went just kind of into it a little bit, and then for now, the body of the hourly candle is staying red at the line. We'll have to see where it wants to go for the rest of the day, but I don't really have huge expectations as far as how much further this is going to go to the upside at this point. We can see here, there was a pretty big gap between price and the 8 EMA, and we also came down to the third ATR, and we just see that this was a big move to the downside on the hourly chart as well. And then we could see that the descent, like you'd even see, it was pretty much an inverse head and shoulders. It's not exactly because the other shoulder should be higher, but basically it came down here and did that, and then you could see it was getting past the 15-minute 50, and then we got a pop to the upside. Now again, as far as how far is this going to go, I'd pretty much say that for the day, this is about as far as I'd want to take it. We are now back up at the hourly third ATR. We're at the daily 50, although I don't really view the daily 50 as being too much of a thing right here, right now, but it is at the daily 50, and it is also at the daily 8 EMA. So it's basically just now filled that gap from price to the daily 8 EMA. So looking at all that and leading up into this. So again, this is just a bounce. This is just a bounce so far. And that's why I'm not calling it a Santa Claus rally or anything else like this. It's just a bounce, just an oversold bounce. And part of the reason why I'm saying that is because of the 15-minute Moxie indicator. Now, I've talked to the Moxie subscribers, traders yesterday and showed many, well, at least 4 examples that we've seen this before where price gets oversold and it kind of bounces like this. But the fact that the 15-minute Moxie indicator is not very good, meaning that it's not tight, it's spread. You can see that they're far from each other. Yes, they're both green, so that's part of why we're getting this bounce and this move to the upside. They are indicating upward momentum, upward movement, but because they are spread from each other, it means that they don't really agree with each other, and so that this is not going to be the strongest up move. So what I've been saying is, yes, we will get this move to the upside, but I don't expect it to last. In fact, I would expect at some point we're going to get a pullback. And now, will that pullback come to exactly the 15-minute 50, or will it come back down to a double bottom? Not sure. But I am fully expecting that there's probably going to be a significant pullback as we kind of chop through this area and perhaps put in a little bit of a low here before maybe going higher. I do think ultimately on call it this bounce, I do think we're probably, my guess is we're going to get up to somewhere around 394, 395. And the reason I say that is just because we'll get back up to the daily 21. We'll probably come back up to this level, like right under here. And I figure we won't go past the hourly 200, but I do think we're going to get over the hourly 50. It's just kind of a common move, kind of common how this happens of what we're seeing. But it's not going to be here. It's not going to be today's move. This is just the first move. And so we kind of get this up and then we pull back, maybe we put in a double bottom, something like that, and then we kind of move up like that. Again, we've seen stuff like this happen all the time. If you want to look at a little bit closer example of the Moxie indicator, so as I show you guys out there on YouTube and Facebook and I think Instagram or wherever you guys see this for free, now I just want to show you examples of the Moxie indicator and how it works, and how when I say, hey, be aware that currently the 15-minute Moxie indicators are spread from each other, and that means that yes, there's a move, but it's not the real move. What I'm trying to do is show you guys that and how that works, such that you can build consistency with it and say, oh, I've seen that before, I recognize it, and now I know what to do with it. So let me show you a very, very recent example of what this looks like. You guys see here how the Moxie indicator was doing the same thing. It looks identical, doesn't it? Both green, both moving up, but notice how they're both spread from each other. What that means is not very strong. So what the correlation to that was, yes, look at that. We got a move up. In fact, it went vertical for the first, I don't know, hour or two of the market, whatever day that was, and it got over the 15-minute 50, just like it's doing right now. But then what happened? Notice that price basically went sideways, ran out of juice, and eventually it broke back down below the 15-minute 50. So it wasn't that strong. But coming into this, we basically retested the low, which is what I was saying currently, probably expect to pull back into the low area. Maybe it's a double bottom, or, retest the low area, something like that. And that's what we saw right here back when it did this. I think it was the day before CPI. And then what you could see is price continued to repair itself. And as price did that, we got the 8 back over the 21. Price got over the 15-minute 50. And you know what the Moxie indicator was doing? Getting nice and tight. So look at the difference here. The Moxie indicator went from a very spread 2 lines, which indicates, yes, okay, there's probably going to be slowing down of a descent, and maybe there's going to be a pop or a move to the upside, but it's not going to be very strong. And so sure enough, didn't really go very far, and we got a pullback. We got a dip. But then that dip basically got bought up, found some strength, and the Moxie indicator went nice and tight. It looked like one line. That means they agree with each other. That means that it's a strong indication, whether it's up or down, but that's a strong indication. And in this case, it was green, it was up, it was over 0, and we got price back over here, and that led us into, the CPI information. Now, of course, that didn't last, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the setup into a move. Whatever happens after the move is also up to the market and how it wants to deal with that. Now, speaking of that, this move up here, where price just got really lit to the upside, that turned out to be an inverse trampoline move on the hourly chart. So part of the Moxie rules are that price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. And then another part of the rules is we had a 50, 200, 50 maneuver on the daily chart. So all these things kind of factor in, showing you little bits and pieces of how the Moxie indicator works. And so that's why when we look at this and we look at this, I'm like, cool. Got to move to the upside. And you know what's next? I would expect that there's going to probably be some sort of pullback. Now, if that pullback is going to be into strength and into support, we should watch for the Moxie indicator to get nice and tight. And if it does, then we should see if we can get that next move up to, hourly 200, 395, 394, I don't know, something like that. Because we've just been, we've been seeing this before. Let's see, let me get over here. Let me show you kind of a couple examples as well that we've seen this before. Let me get a little bit further. Oh, come on. Let's see. So in through here, yeah. So this one right here I wanted to show you. We'll pull this over here on the daily chart right there. Okay, so let me kind of line up my cursors. The move that we're experiencing today on the 15-minute time frame is essentially this. I think that is what we're getting. You can see how also on the daily chart it closed the gap right there into the daily 8. And we got that first move up. However, you can see afterward what it do. It pulled back very sharply and basically a double bottom, didn't it? So I see that, there's the double bottom, and then we can see it held, and then there was the bigger move, and you can see price went right to the hourly 200. It got over the hourly 50, and it went a little bit beyond the daily 21. So that's basically what I'm looking for and what I think is going to be showing up. So yeah, if you guys have any questions on Facebook or YouTube about that or anything else you want to be looking at, let me know. Let me see. Let's see here. Does the 50 250 maneuver work when the 200 is below the 50? Also, seems like it's more effective on some time frames versus other. That idea probably still works. It probably does. I just don't gear my brain for that too much. Trying to think. I think mostly because yeah, what we're looking for is a change of direction. So when the 50 is below the 200, you know, we kind of get that pop, and then either the pullback as a failure or a pullback into support, and then we continue up. I'm sure if we look around, we can find examples of the other way, but it's just I don't really. It just doesn't call to my eyes as much, and so I don't really look for it. The only thing I can kind of look at that I'm thinking up off the top of my head is if we come to the dollar and we look at this, you could say 50, 200, 50 maneuver. So maybe there's that. Maybe there's that. So I think if you're asking a 50, 250, then you're looking for a short. But yeah, I think that most of the times what we're looking for is a regular 50, 250. So you can see it like even that right there. That was a, you know, here's the 50, 200, and back down to the 50, did not hold and continued lower like that. So look around. You guys know the concept and how I see it, why I apply it. And if you want to see if it works the other way around, yeah, just look around and see what we can kind of come to. All right, so we've got that. Your SPR looks much stronger than the rest of the stocks. What is this? Spirit? Oh, Aero Systems. I don't know. Kind of mixed on this. I'm still not seeing a ton of strength out there. Let me get to the. Oh man, my there we go. The computer's pretty slow sometimes when I'm running all these systems. The only thing I could add, so Venus, is that there might be this longer term double bottom right in through here. So if that's a thing, if this is going to work out, then yeah, I would be aware of that. And if you're looking for this to go bullish, then start looking down at the lower time frames, kind of with this in mind. Let me just point out also, you can see leg, heel, arch of the foot. It was a very long ball of the foot, but then you got the elf toe right there. So that double bottom worked out pretty well. We might be seeing another one here. Now remember, this is why I don't call them, you know, they are double bottoms, but if you just think of a double bottom as that, it's a little bit misleading because sometimes the ball of the foot, the retest of the low area, and that's why I say low area, can be lower than the previous low. So you might look at this and say, well, that's not a double bottom. I'm like, well, it kind of is. It retests low area and it decided to hold, and so it would go up. This is still a potential elf shoe. Leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot. You could be getting an elf toe there. So what I'm trying to do is let's look at the higher time frames, see if there's some things to talk about, and then we can drill down a little bit further. And if we do that, we come down here on the hourly chart. Let's see our daily chart, hourly chart. Then what I'm also seeing is here's price down, here's the Moxie indicator up, and then yes, here is your nice cross of the Moxie indicator right as price crossed over the 50. That's pretty good. That was good timing right there. So notice here we have price crossing up over a downtrending daily 50. And so I like to see price pull back into the 50, and then if it holds it, good. Notice here how it kind of danced around the 50, but it couldn't actually hold it. There's a difference. So let me zoom in a little bit further so we can see that better. But yeah, you can see, you know, pulled back to the 50, kind of chopped around a little bit, but eventually it failed the 50, so it wasn't quite ready. But notice here, it is holding the 50 for now. And if it can mostly keep that up, and if it can keep doing this, then yes, this should be strong or relatively strong. We still have to be careful. This market is still weird and it is still a mess, and you're going to have to take each name individually. But at least it is showing that it doesn't want to go down too much. Okay, so yeah, it's looking promising. The problem exists, I think, in through here is that the 50 is still below the 200. So just kind of how we were talking about over in the Moxie group with about the 50, 250, we could still be dealing with a 50, 250 maneuver. Okay, and that's mostly because the 50 is still below the 200. The trend is still down, technically, because the 50 is below the 200. So it could have some work to do as it continues to move up, mostly because if it goes up to the 200, it could kind of hit its head somewhere around there. I don't know exactly because sometimes they can push past, but whatever. But this isn't, I wouldn't say that this is clear sailing right now because you do have some resistance that it could kind of want to get past and do some stuff about. So just remember, you know, maybe not call this a long-term investment yet. You still have to be active with it, but it is showing some signs of promise, and I'd kind of, you know, look at it through a favorable lens until it tells you otherwise. Again, I don't know about right now. It's a little tough. I mean, it is holding the 21 EMA, but this is kind of looking a little bit, you might be seeing some negative divergence through there. It's a tough one. Mostly it's going sideways. That's always the challenge with things that are going sideways. All right, so let's see what else we're looking at. SOXX is another one that we've kind of been keeping an eye on. And if I come over here to the higher time frames, the only thing I've kind of been mentioning and pointing out is that we have been dealing with this downtrending channel for a long time, for about a year. And for whatever reason, it decided to say that the monthly 50 is where it wanted to find some support, and it broke out of that channel. Now, just because I have a channel drawn here doesn't mean that it is perfect or that the market's going to pay attention to it or listen to it and say, oh, yeah, of course. I mean, sure, I'll never go back inside that channel, of course. You know, this is like a holy grail. No, it's not going to be anything like that. So just because I'm pointing this out doesn't mean it has to work, but it is something to note. And so if the market does actually end up going a little bit bullish at some point in the future, this could be the beginning of it. And if we look at the weekly chart, we can see that we've also had an undercut. So a little bit of a form of a double bottom, or we could even be looking at this as inverted head and shoulders. So there's some things about this that could be indicating some strength. So we could even look at this as leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot, and then we could be getting an elf toe in through here if price wants to go up. Now, if this doesn't work, if this is all wrong, then yeah, price will continue to find resistance here. It'll fail the 200, it'll fail here, and it'll keep going lower. It'll come back in here and it'll keep going lower. I mean, we just have to be honest about that. We have to say, well, we see potential, but we need to keep watching it for confirmation. And if we come over here to the daily and the hourly, what do we got? 50, 200, 50 maneuver. So if we look back here just a little bit, we can see that this one failed the 50 and continued to move down. There is a possibility that this might actually start finding some strength in through here. I cannot confirm it yet. You know, the pullback is in a downtrend. We have had a bounce, but the bounce is nothing yet confirmed to find support. Like, we don't know yet if the daily 50 is going to be support. We do not know that yet. There are no signs or indications here on the hourly chart yet, but I'm seeing that the Moxie indicator is higher than, and despite price being lower. So there's positive divergence that's actually getting built into this. So there's a possibility. I've also been discussing how that price has stayed up here for quite some time, and you guys know, like, VWAP or VPOC, you know, volume weighted average price, and then point of control, that kind of stuff. So the fact that price spent so much time up there might indicate that there's kind of some more interest up there, that there was a lot of money or a lot of interest that was willing to take place up there. And so it might become a little bit of a sign or signal or an anchor point to where you know, it might start saying, hey, actually this is a place of value, that people are starting to say that, yeah, we actually are okay with price being up there. And so a pullback could just be retesting some low support areas, and if it continues to move back up, then we could continue to move back up. If that is not going to be the case, if we're going to see that this market is in fact still bearish and we're going to keep moving down, then, you know, just expect bounces will get sold into, like that. So that's why I'm saying I don't have any signals yet on the long side. The Moxie indicator is still below zero, and for now this is still just a bounce and a downtrend. So we're just going to have to give it more time to see where things go. But if you're bearish, you know, short the bounces. Just short those bounces and figure out where that is. So yeah, not too much to work with yet. All right, and then gold, GDX, there was some stuff in through here. Now this might also be another case. If you guys look at the SPY, and look at what we just did on the SPY. Now I know that we had with Mr. Dev. If you are out there and you're going to watch one of these videos, since I've seen you in the comments a few recently, and we've been kind of talking back and forth. Now, Mr. Dev, I know that you are very bearish of this market. Totally fair. We'll just have to wait and see how that goes. Now, take the setup that I showed you over the last few weeks on the S&P. And what do we have here, potentially, on GDX? We have a 50, 200, 50 maneuver right here. And if you guys want to see the exact other setup that we're noticing, Going into the FOMC with the SPY, what did we have? We had an inverse trampoline move. And I'm noticing basically the same thing. I'm noticing that we have price over the hourly 50, the Moxie indicator below 0. These are inverse trampoline moves. We've had now 2. And we have price still getting rejected by the daily 200, and there is still room or gap below price and the daily 50. So if these patterns work out, I would then have to say that we have negative bearish type shorting setups on the hourly chart with these inverse trampoline moves, and we're running into the daily 200 as resistance, and we actually just bounced up again. We might actually be at a point where this could be a good short, at least for a pullback, for GDX back to the daily 50 or just below. Again, this looks exactly like the SPY. Let me show you. So we go back, we look at the SPY. What do we see right in through here? Doesn't it look, 50, 200, 50 maneuver? And you can see this was an inverse trampoline move right there. So if this works, then we should be seeing GDX come back down to the daily 50 or just below the daily 50. You can see that the SPY actually went to the third ATR, and there's a chance that GDX could go to its third ATR as well. Call it $26. So that's going to be just below the daily 50. Now after that, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just saying I think that there's an opportunity right there. Now, if you can trade options on this. You can look at the precious metals, gold, silver, whatever, see if any of those are going to work out that way. So we'll have to see. Remember, you got to verify that this is going to work. If this doesn't work and if price continues going higher, then so be it. But right now, I'm just kind of seeing a similar setup. You could also trade DUST, D-U-S-T, which is the leveraged inverse ETF. And we could be seeing that maybe there's a bottom trying to be put in on this. Now, I always tell my subscribers I don't study the leveraged ETFs, mostly because they have a lot of slippage and they're trying to mimic the underlying ETF. But if you look at it, there could be some things to understand. So I just wanted to kind of point this out. Make your decisions off of GDX, but you can buy DUST or you can buy Nugget. So it does look like it's trying to put in a bottom here, double, triple bottom, something like that. And you can see here that we've got a level and the Moxie indicator has been coming up, and we've got trampoline situations here on the hourly chart. So there could be actually something here for DUST to go back up to, I don't know, daily 50 or its third ATR. Right there, it's about 28, 30%. Could be something. Could be something to look into. Sure, yeah, Nasir, let's look at Meta. What do you want? Which direction? Or do you want me to roll the dice and see what I see and if it lines up with what you're looking at? For the most part, going sideways. Okay, so let's see if we can look at the higher time frame and get any other conclusions. So I would look at this and say, it has already been basically shot. I mean, it is dead and flopping on the ground, and it seems to me it's pretty darn oversold. So I think the likelihood of Meta at least kind of getting just a reversion to the mean, a dead cat bounce, like call it maybe a large term dead cat bounce because we're talking about the monthly, weekly time frames. It's possible. So we can see here that price got really oversold, got outside of that third ATR, okay, really oversold. And now it's coming back into it. So if this wanted to go up a little bit, what would I say, Nasir? Like I know you know everything that I generally talk about. Oh, you're in a put with Cody. Well, let me show you my side of things. Outside of the third ATR, that's pretty darn oversold. And now it seems to me that it's coming back inside of the third ATR. And unless this thing rolls over and dies, what would the next step that I would say this thing goes to? I would say that it probably wants to get back to its monthly 10. If it's not going to go down, then it's probably going to want to get to the monthly 10. Now, is it going to do it with a move to the upside? Or is it going to do it by going sideways and it's going to have that monthly 10 come down to it? We don't know yet. But I do think that we should be looking for price and the monthly 10 to come together. How about this on the weekly chart? When with the weekly chart or even the daily chart or anything else like this, and I talk about the 8 and 21, when price gets too far away from the 8, off the 8 back to the 8, but what is the more substantial moving average that price tends to go to? It's the 21 EMA. I mean, you can see, call it that or even that. That's your better one. But you can see we got seriously oversold here. Got way off of that 8 EMA, giant gap right there, and got outside of that third ATR. That's another indication that price got really oversold. And so there's the possibility that, this is the leg, here's the heel, maybe this is the arch of the foot, and maybe, down here, let's see if it kind of builds the ball of the foot and then might get a move to the upside. Or it could just go sideways until it finally wants to pop a little bit. If people can't keep shorting this or selling it to make this go down, then at some point the shorts are going to be like, uh-oh, and they're going to say, oh, my risk to reward ratio is not that good because thing is already down pretty far and it doesn't want to go down any further. They're going to start doing some short covering and then it could pop to the upside. So just be aware of that. And then if I look here, it looks like it's doing a decent job of trying to get past the daily 50. You have the 8 over the 21. Obviously, the Moxie indicator is above 0, and it's pretty much going sideways. And you can see that this more or less looks like a flag, and you've now had the hourly 200 go from a downtrend to an uptrend. And the Moxie indicator for now is still above 0. What if, and you see here on the 15, what if, look at this positive divergence. What if this actually starts to kind of build a basin through here and then starts to move up? If the bears can't press this thing further down, so if the bears are like, oh man, we're trying, but if they all got kind of swooped out over here on this flush to the downside, and they can't get it out any further, then you could see kind of a natural move back up to the upside. So this one's tough. Again, it's mostly sideways, so it's a little hard to work with this. But I would keep your mind open. I would be prepared for either direction, and I would almost be a little bit more inclined to say this could move up. Let me come over here and let's look at a higher time frame. So if we go back, yeah, where have we seen in the past? The hourly 200 was flat here, but other than that, the hourly 200 is always in a downtrend, always in a downtrend. Okay. But if we take that and we go over here, now what do we see? Notice that the 200 is in a downtrend, but now the 200 is in an uptrend. It doesn't have to work. I'm just pointing things out to be aware of. What if price, because remember, Nasir, first move, second move, right? Here's the first move over a downtrending moving average. Here's the second move basically as a flag. What if it wants to go up? I'm just kind of putting that out there. It's something we need to be aware of, that this could actually just be flagging in support before it goes higher. Okay. And yeah, this looks like it's kind of building the base, a bit of a base. So it's sideways. Again, can kind of do anything it wants, but it might be seriously oversold to where it might go up a little bit. Let me see. And Amazon, I keep watching Amazon. I know Cody's short Amazon too, and he's been more right than I have on the last 2 trades that I've been trying to take. But Nasir, I keep looking at this thing, and I keep seeing this giant gap between price and the monthly 10. And at some point, just like Meta, at some point it's going to want to come back to that monthly 10. We don't know when or where. That's our job, is trying to figure it out. But I also see here that price keeps riding and pushing the outside of that daily 8 EMA. They just don't last that long. Now, of course, how long is relative, because it's been doing it for 2 months, and this is on a weekly time frame. But at some point, the 8 EMA is too much. It's like too good of a move, and at some point it's going to snap back and want to come to the 21 EMA on whatever time frame we're talking about. So I still continue to see indications that this is getting kind of stretched to the downside. And so I would just be careful, continuing trying to short this. It just looks like it's not really wanting to really fall over. And I'm kind of seeing this. We were getting some positive divergence here. And even in through here, this is still trying to push up a little bit. I haven't been able to find that bullish trade yet, but I'm kind of leaning towards, I need to be careful with this to the downside. It's kind of been moving to the downside, but it's been real jerky. So I'm cautious on that. I'm cautious. If you want to look at Tesla, now Tesla has kind of its own reasons and all that. I mean, this thing has done much better. I mean, look, there is no, this thing continues to kind of move down like that. You can see clearly it's been moving down, and it's been able to do pretty big waves to the downside. And you can see all that kind of stuff. There's been no setup on the hourly chart. I mean, look at this. Even this last move here, the hourly Moxie indicator has just been going down. So Tesla has been pretty clear to the downside. Amazon, not too much. Amazon doesn't look like it really wants to fall apart too much. Same thing with Meta. Meta doesn't look like it wants to die too much. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to get going. If you have any questions, remember, come over to profitpilot.com. You can also check us out over at simplertrading.com. And yeah, let's see what we got with this market. Remember, we have Christmas coming up this weekend. Monday is the observed holiday, and then we have New Year's Eve after that. And my thought is that other than some chop, gosh, I kind of want to say that the Bears are probably going to take their winnings over the last few days. And we'll either be in chop, or I think we're going to kind of melt to the upside. That's kind of where I'm leaning to. So we'll see how that turns out, and we'll see you guys